Okay, so by my watch, it's now saying 7 o'clock. So I think we can get going. Thank you, Caroline. Oh, we have Robin as well. Welcome, Robin. Hope everything is well
hey,
with
Robin.
you.
Hello.
Great stuff. Lovely to have you here, Robin. So welcome, Caroline, Katie, Michael, and Robin. And hopefully we'll get a few more people joining us throughout the session today as well. This is now our... oh, it's now allowing me the option to stream to Facebook. So let me just try that.
Perhaps it's a timing issue.
Yeah, that is definitely a timing issue for sure.
Maybe because it just turned 7.
Quite possibly, quite possibly. Let me just see if I can get this going now. Last thing I need is for me to stream to my personal page, and that would be hilarious, wouldn't it? Okay, no, it's not working. I lie. We're gonna leave that. Okay, so yeah, thank you everyone for joining today. We've got an hour of everyone's time, and this is our third open evening, and each time we are adding fantastic speakers, more content and more information really to be able to share with you all about Apricot online learning and the fantastic work that Apricot does. We are absolutely privileged to have Linda with us today. Linda, welcome to our open evening, and welcome to all of the Apricot staff for joining us today as well. They're all here to be able to answer any questions that anybody may have, and to be able to add any further context that you may need as part of today's presentation. So really, the focus of every open evening has been somewhat different, and today's focus is very much around Apricot's capabilities and expertise specifically in helping children with learning difficulties, with high anxiety, or any form of sort of, I guess, restriction in some way, shape or form in terms of how they learn. And this is an area in particular for Apricot to specialize in, because we have specific teachers and processes and ways of working that really do cater for those that may have these difficulties, be that mental health, be that learning difficulties or anxiety. And so today's focus is very much about that. And that's why we have Linda today with us, who is the former head of Hawkswood School, to be able to share with us her experiences using Apricot and the work specifically with that cohort of children and that set of learning difficulties, and how Apricot has really helped her former students in that respect. So welcome, Linda. Welcome, Amy and Jodie as well, the directors and the forefront of Apricot in that respect. And Clem, Trisha, Cara are fantastic teachers who are the forefront for the children and the parents, and the fantastic work that you guys do as well. So thank you all for joining us today. Amy, would you like to just give a little introduction?
Sure. 2 years ago, we did a video case study at Hawkswood. And while I've cut the students out of it, just for permissions and protection, child protection, I would like to go ahead as a way of introducing Linda's school, Hawkswood Therapeutic School, her former school, and the work that they did there. And then I think maybe some good questions can come out of that for the participants, as well as it would be really interesting, I think, for people to know the type of students that you had at the school. And we worked with you for 10 years and built up, really crafted a program between the therapeutic services you offer and the therapeutic teaching, or the nurturing teaching, the trauma-informed teaching that we did. So it's about 3.5 minutes. So if you guys bear with me, I'll share my screen and just show you this little case study on Hawkswood Therapeutic School. So where is it? It's here. And okay.
I'm Linda McCaffrey, and I'm the head teacher of Hawkswood Therapeutic School. At the very beginning, we had a very small staff team, and we wanted to deliver broader curriculum as possible. So the best options seem to be to look towards online learning, because in that way we could develop a nice broad curriculum. We could meet the needs of the whole cohort without having to have loads and loads of teachers on site. It was only a small provision. With Apricot, we were able to negotiate with them, look at what the needs of our cohort were, and then develop a curriculum around that that would work for both us and for Apricot. So we started together, and over a period of 8 years, it's become something that's almost unrecognisable from its inception. It's become so incredibly responsive in terms of what our children need in terms of learning, but also because the Apricot staff are trained up in therapeutic support as well, they have a very good understanding of the issues our pupils may have, so they can manage them better in the classroom, even though they're online. So there's a parity there between us in terms of what we do, Apricot does. And so it's become more of a collaboration and a partnership.
There are lots of reasons why it works. First of all, they do feel less threatened. They go into the class, they come in with complex issues from home perhaps, or mental health issues, and there's no stress. They're used to a computer. They don't feel there's that personal, they have to have that argument or that disconnect. They feel in control as well, because they're moving the equipment around. And also the relationships, the staff that they know from Apricot are people they feel they've trusted, people who are there, they've built up relationships, who know them as whole people, not just about the subjects. And obviously they've got more control over the pace of their learning as well. So the children I've spoken to and the impact it's made has been phenomenal, and I really highly recommend it.
It's interesting here because we deal with children who have serious mental health concerns. And that could be everything from paranoid schizophrenia, depression, self-harm, borderline personality disorder, and they can't stay in a mainstream school. For a lot of them, especially with that high anxiety that a lot of these conditions can bring, being put into a classroom where there's a live teacher in front of you and the pace is very high, they can find that very difficult to deal with. So really, one of the joys of Apricot is removing that initial barrier of how to engage with education, when up till that point they've been struggling. Because there's no eye contact, really high anxiety children can do very, very well with that. But also the pace of the lesson can be a lot slower. The big advantage for our children is the lessons are all recorded. The result is if someone joins us halfway through a year, they could say, well, I'm behind, but they've got all these lessons they can actually go back to, refresh themselves, and gives them the chance to start taking ownership of their own learning outside of the school environment as well as within it. So really, it enables us to deal with children whose anxieties have prevented them going into the classroom. It gives us an opportunity to get them in and start that process of engagement. And Apricot are very, very skilled to do.
One of the things I'm very impressed with Apricot is the quality of the teaching. They employ quality teachers, quality individuals. They have a Doctor of Science there. Many of their teachers have been examiners on the AQA examining board, and they all have a fairly long history of mainstream experience, and so they bring that to the mix. So in that sense, I really feel that our pupils are getting the best of the best.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Amy, for sharing that as well. I think it was a nice way to be able to open the session up, just kind of reviewing that and just reminding everyone of the great work that Apricot has been doing with Linda and her team. And Linda, again, thank you so much for being here today. And we'd love to be able to just hear firsthand from you, actually, your experiences of Apricot. What made you decide Apricot was right for your school, and yeah, maybe some success stories in particular that you can share with us?
Yeah, well, and obviously Amy has mentioned that it started 10 years ago. In Waltham Forest, there was no provision for pupils with mental health conditions or complex mental health needs. And the head teachers at the time decided that they would like a provision, and they looked to the pupil referral unit at the time and asked if they might set something up. And that's where I came in. I got the job of head teacher. Because it was a very small provision, when we started, there were 4 members of staff. There was absolutely no way that we could manage to meet the needs of a broad and balanced curriculum for these pupils without getting some help and some support from outside. And so we searched around for an online provider who would be able to offer us the breadth and the depth of the curriculum, but also had the ability to be flexible and to be able to sort of mold the learning to what we needed. And that's what we found in Apricot. Some of the other providers we looked at had very set curriculums, and we would have to fit in with them. The difference with Apricot was immediately it was a case of what do you want, what do you need, and then they tried to fit around us. Now, when you've got children with mental health needs, and we were dealing with children from having needs like psychosis, schizophrenia, all the way through to self-harm, anxiety and depression. Some of our pupils were in the Tier 4 mental health hospital in the borough and were transitioning to Tier 3, and we were the transition to either try and get them back into school or to support them to take their GCSEs. Some of the pupils were coming in from mainstream, and they were basically either falling out, not able to go in. Some of them were school refusers and had been sitting at home for anything from 6 months to a couple of years. So it was a tall order. That's what I will say straight off the bat. It was a tall order to ask Apricot to try and support us in engaging children with that level of complexity and need. So that's where we started. And what I needed was good teachers, because our children have lost out enough. They've lost out by not being at school. They've lost out by missing school. They have huge gaps in their education. And we needed teachers that had the empathy, the sensitivity and the understanding to be able to work within their need, but also that gave them the opportunity to be like their peers, to catch up with what they had missed and to gain qualifications that would take them on to the next step. And so again, that's what we found with Apricot. They were providing everything from, we were doing entry level in the Key Stage 3 group right the way through in all the subjects. We had functional skills and we had GCSE. And in some cases where we had really low level pupils, they were actually delivering a primary curriculum to some of our pupils as well.
Sure.
So Apricot were a really good fit for us. It allowed us, especially, so I'll give you some examples. We had some children that were school refusers, some children who had sat inside, not able to leave the house for months and months and months, sometimes years. What we were able to do is we were able to immediately offer them some online education that would get them engaged with their learning, engaged with the staff, who, when they eventually came into us, they would know and have a relationship with.
Sure. While
our CAMS therapist was then able to go into the home and work with them. And the other advantage we did have was having a CAMS therapist on site, because the waiting list at CAMS at the time was anything for 6 months to a year and a half. So we were able to work collaboratively to get the children in. And it was a step-by-step process of desensitization. But once those children came into the classroom, it was small groups, but it was the same staff. It was the teachers that they were familiar with, and it was a learning platform that they had become familiar with. So that allowed us to get the kids in. And there wasn't one child in the whole time that we were working with Apricot who was a school refuser that we worked with that we didn't manage to get in. And it was primarily the relief from parents to actually have their children engaging in something to start with and getting some education was just incredible. You know, we had parents in tears because finally something was happening for their child.
Yeah.
And then likewise in the classroom, we had children who were up at the 7, 8, 9 GCSE grade, and we had children down at the 1 and 2 grades. And we could create higher tier, foundation tier classes. We could mix and match. We could teach by year group. That flexibility was there the whole time. So we were providing in every possible way for what the kids needed. And we were also doing that through staff who were sensitive to their needs and who weren't going to be upset if the kids had, you know, a meltdown and weren't coping on that day.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. I think that bespoke service, essentially, you know, there is no one size fits all. Every school is going to be different. Every child is different in terms of their needs and their wants and the best way for them to learn. And I think that's one thing that Apricot can certainly do in terms of providing a solution that is bespoke to what is required for you, as you say. Curriculum. Absolutely, a tailored curriculum. That's a really good way of putting that. In that, yeah, it's not a this is what we offer, like it or leave it type of thing. It's essentially something that can be built around the needs of the child first and foremost, and therefore the needs of the school as well. We actually have a question
also
here.
Buying into the national curriculum and the demands of the GCSE, it's all closely aligned, but they could break it down into steps that would allow our kids to catch up.
Yeah, well, we actually have a question here from Michael James. He says it'd be interesting to hear about how you've adapted learning for children with CFS/ME. I'm not sure if that's a question directly for Linda or Amy, you might be able to answer as well. But Linda, maybe if that might be something that you can take on first.
In the first instance, when you've got a child who's been ill, they're not going to be able to access a whole curriculum, a whole day, a whole week. I mean, it would be a transitional timetable. And obviously, if the child's going to be intermittently ill, even with mental health, you get peaks and you get troughs. And again, the beauty of having Apricot was that the children didn't have to be in school to access it. They could access it from home. And even if they were ill at the time, they could access it there. But the other thing that we did, which it was on the therapeutic side, was we were working in conjunction with their doctors at CAMS. So if the doctors actually said to us, this child is only able to do this much education at this moment because of the mental health illness that they have, then we would be guided by them, reviewing regularly. So at the point at which the doctor, yes, we're improving, they may be on medication, that was the point at which then we would start to increase. So there's a lot of flux and change, but they're still accessing and they're still moving forward, even if some of the steps are smaller.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think, some of the things that Jody and I do is around timetabling. So CFS/ME children, they don't wake up in the mornings, they're up later in the afternoons. Sometimes, some of our teachers have agreed even for an early evening slot, which is rare that has to happen, but those children are usually taught in the afternoon when they're awake, and for varying periods of time we build breaks in for them, and they have a button they can just click that lets us know that they've just taken a break for a second. They get 5 minutes on that button before we get worried and start calling home. But so we do that administratively. But now you teachers, are there things that you do differently? Maybe not for CFS, children that tire very quickly.
Well, I teach 2 CFS pupils at the moment. So I have one pupil that has shortened lessons, and because of the fatigue, really. So I teach him once a week, again, late afternoon, and what we can do as well. The beauty of Apricot is that the pupils aren't having to catch up. They're not having to keep up with everybody. We can go at their pace. If they're flagging, they can tell us. You can have that dialogue. We've spoken with one of the pupils, we've spoken in terms of spoons, with spoon theory, when you've got 12 spoons a day, how many spoons have you got today for the lesson? 1.5, right, well, we know where we are. So we can really, really tailor our energy levels to theirs. I have another pupil who finds videos overwhelming. I use a lot of videos in my session. So for that child, I don't put videos on. So it's so bespoke and tailored. And when you were speaking earlier, I was thinking of the quote that I found that I've stuck to my laptop that says, if a child can't learn the way we teach, we have to teach the way they learn. And I think that's absolutely spot on for what we do at Apricot. We absolutely take that child as an individual, but as a whole person. So we get to know their energy levels, we get to know their likes, their dislikes. And one of the things with CFS and ME is that sometimes you can engineer a little bit of energy for them by using the things that they're interested in, because that empowers you. Biraj did a fantastic session for us when we had a conference about utilizing your strengths. and empowering yourself with things that you're good at. So this is one of the things that I think is absolutely key to Apricot, is that we can find out what our pupils are already good at, and we can empower them by riding along on the things that they can already do without expending too much energy. So I think there's so many things that we do. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but for children with particular needs such as that. And I would say with Apricot, every child that comes through, we get to know really, really well. And you get to know that they can communicate with you. So something's come up about reducing anxiety. And, you know, the pupils, because they get to know you and they feel safe. And I think that's the key word with Apricot, is that a lot of children are having to go into Main Street and they're having to mask their anxieties or their mental health, and then they're coming home exhausted, and it becomes this horrible cycle of, I'm exhausted, now I have to go to school, and it becomes worse. Whereas I think with Apricot, the mask comes off, and sometimes that means it can be a little bit harder for us, but that's what we're there for. So I think we are in a very good position to meet people's needs.
Thanks, Kara.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I agree with that. We sort of get to know the students really well, and they get to know us quite well. So often when you start, certainly with a student with ME, it takes a little bit of time to get to know their sort of rhythm, but you can hear it, even though we don't see each other, you can hear it in their voice. You can see that the level of enthusiasm might appear on the surface to wane, but it's not that they're no longer enthusiastic. They are obviously, you know, feeling quite exhausted, and initially we sort of try and build up a lot of time with them. So the lessons might start sort of being cut short initially, and then slowly we sort of build up their resilience as well, and using their sort of interests. And I was going to say, you know, I think I taught one student for 3 years with ME, and very interesting how, as we came up to the exam years, how we focused on particular things. And I very openly said, well, what do you need to do now? Which areas do you want to focus on? So that bespoke part, you know, is really quite true. That's what, you know, what we all do and try and do. You know, which bits do you want to focus on? Do you want to do exam questions? Do we need to run over something else, you know, to help you as you're getting to that point? Yeah.
I think that collaboration and working together is really, really important, in the sense that this, again, it's not just a one size fits all. Everyone's going to need different styles and different ways of engaging, and Apricot definitely is open to any style and any way of learning in that respect. We have a couple more questions here, actually. Robin, I'll come on to your question in just a moment, but for Michael, has also asked, how is learning typically delivered? Is it one-to-one or classroom-led? And if so, what sort of class size? We will be doing a very short overview of how we teach in a moment, Michael. But also, if this is something that you'd like a little bit more detail on, then we are more than happy to do a demonstration for you offline at a time that works best for you, to really give you a really good understanding of how we deliver through the platform. But just to answer your question about one-to-one versus classroom-led, Amy, would you like to take that one maybe, or Jodie? I think
I'll take it, because I think Michael's son has done I think he has already done a trial with us last week. I may be wrong, but I think so. And I think with regards to CFS and ME, it really depends on your child, and you'll know your child more than anyone else. So I'm currently, bizarrely, in talks with a couple of parents who also have children with CFS. And we are trying to see if we could work a small group together, which is in the afternoons, because currently our homeschooling is, for some unknown reason, is landed mainly on morning slots. So I am in talks with some parents with regards to getting some groups together for parents, particularly with children of CFS for afternoon sessions, but we do offer a one-to-one service if that is required. It purely depends, because I do know that definitely with our CFS students, they have peaks and troughs. So it depends how we would go down that route.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that, Jodie.
If I could just interject there, when Apricot were working with us, the class sizes could be anything from 8 to 10 and sometimes slightly higher.
Yeah, they're never, we don't do more than 10 in a class. So even the classroom sizes, then that we would never do more than 10.
Fantastic. But one-to-one is absolutely possible if that's something that someone wished as well.
I think if it's something that somebody needs, then yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jody and I were talking earlier today about how we are always part of a blended program for children, because working online can be quite isolating and it's very intense. And so it's nice to be able to get children in a small group where they can have some social interaction if they're not going to school. But it's not the only thing that we do. We do groups up to 10, and we will do one-to-ones when that's needed. You know, the child may simply need it, and so do it.
Fantastic, fantastic. We have a question from Robin. He's saying here how we've been talking about Apricot style being very good at reducing anxiety. He's saying here that there's lots of mainstream kids that suffer from anxiety, and he's asking if Apricot have ever engaged in situations that are classed as mainstream.
Yeah, well, we're certainly, that's one of the reasons this open evening is about schools and local authorities, because we cater to every child, whether that's a homeschool child, a school child in mainstream, or a referral from another alternative provision or a virtual school ed. So Jody, did you want to comment?
Well, I just think, I mean, I am speaking to more and more parents of children in mainstream schools who's due to, for whatever reason, are suffering more and more with anxiety and struggling to go into school. I've spoken to a lot of schools recently with regards to exactly the same thing. And again, well, like Amy said earlier, it's more about the blended package. It's about maybe having us to take off the harder subjects for the student, and then they agree to go into school maybe for art and music, which we can't facilitate, but we'll take on their maths, their English and their science. So they're kind of getting the best of both worlds. So we can work in many different ways that way. Yeah. With Hawkswood, I know that they had art therapy and different things that they were able to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and that's always our first question when we talk with people. What do you need? What are your needs? Whatever they are, I'm sure we can fulfill them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that may
because
actually...
we're small enough to be that flexible and that personalized, but big enough to have a staff. Whoa, somebody's comment. But big enough to have a staff to teach a broad range of subjects.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, Caroline, that may have actually answered your question in the fact that can someone start off with one-to-ones and then join a classroom setting thereafter? Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but absolutely. If that's what's required, if that's the best way to be able to integrate the child back into learning, starting off initially in a one-to-one setting, growing their confidence and their trust in the process and trust in the teachers in the platform, and then transitioning over into a more classroom setting with other children where they can start to engage.
But they don't have to start at
but they don't have to, exactly.
They can go straight into a group. In fact, most of our homeschool children, which a lot of whom are high anxiety.
Yeah. Absolutely. But thank you so much, Caroline, for the question, and also Michael as well. Some great questions there. We have one here from Katie. I'm just going to read it verbatim.
I can answer this.
Go ahead.
So Katie, I spoke to the school because the school phoned me, and they were asking me questions with regards to how they would facilitate it and who would pay for it, and where they would stand. And I did explain to them that they could B code they could decode your child. So actually it was provisioning them off site, and we would be in charge, although they would be with regards to safeguarding, because they were on the school roll, we are fully safeguarded provision, and I did let them know that, and I did offer them to do a demonstration to show them how that we would be safeguarded, etc.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, from a safeguarding perspective, and ability to be able to deliver this service to schools in a way that is 100%, kind of aligned with all the expectations that you would have from a school. I think this is absolutely something that Apricot do and have done, and certainly from our perspective, having the opportunity to be able to showcase and talk to the schools, to be able to gain their trust in the system and how we teach, is something that we would absolutely welcome. So
it's very true, because it's really difficult. I think it's really difficult for schools. It's not a downer on schools. I think it's very difficult for them to quickly trust something that they know nothing about. So each school will have their own provision or placement or function that they use, and they use that all the time, and that may not be the best solution for an individual child, but it's just something that they're used to, they're comfortable with. So it's really difficult when a parent comes in and says, well, look, I've just found this and this looks really good, this is what my child needs, and this would work, and the school goes, oh no, well, I don't like it.
You don't know them,
but they don't know us. So yes. It's really difficult. I mean, I speak to lots of schools around this type of thing that Kate is dealing with, to say, look, keep the child on roll, but there is other options out there, and all we're interested in is helping that child, and we are fluid and we are honest, and we have so schools and parents have access to everything. So they have access to, they can log in, they can see the child's attendance, they can go and see their progress, they can pull off reports. So we are reporting on the child on a weekly basis. We have full ILPs every full term. So there's nothing hidden in anything that we do. So schools we're on, like I said, they can log on a daily basis to look at live attendance, so that they know that they're not throwing their money away, because again, that's scarce in schools. So there's all of these factors to consider. But I just wish they would consider us more, because we're good at what we do.
Well, that speaks to Caroline's next comment, that they were never alerted to an organization like us. And that's simply because I don't know how after 10 years we can be unknown, but we are. We're really pushing now to be known. We're on a lot of frameworks for a lot of different councils, but as Jody was just saying, the schools have the people that they're used to using. They don't even look at the approved provider framework a lot of times. And
in terms
online
of
education was.
Oh, sorry, Amy.
Oh no, I was just saying online.
Linda, you go.
No, I was just saying, in the EHCP situation and sort of outsourcing to someone else, that's no different to year 11 in a mainstream school being sent to an AP to do a college course for their year 11. The school still retains responsibility for them. They have oversight of attendance and they get reports, but the child's not actually physically in the school. They're somewhere else being educated. And it just sounds very similar to me.
It is similar. It's just online. It's interesting. Online education is always a last resort. Has been traditionally a last resort. Well, we've tried everything else. Let's try something online. With the second lockdown, every school was told you have to have your own online solution to go to. And, the teachers have limited tools. They have teams and they have worksheets, and that's just so not what we do. Yeah. What we do is very interactive, highly participatory, very engaging. We've spent 10 years building, curriculum that works in this environment, and also recognizing that when each teacher that we hire, we have to say, are you willing to have a different mindset? because you're not the star of the show anymore. The kids have to be the star of the show. And so what you have to build, what we build online is an arena in which they can act. And that's what they do constantly. They're acting, they're drawing, they're clicking, they're doing interactives, they're writing, so obviously they're being taught by the teachers as well. There's some information being imparted, of course.
But that's the strength of it, isn't it, Amy? Is that, and also the other big thing that no one said is that actually the children don't see you, which is probably a good job when first thing in the morning, to be fair.
Speak for yourself, Cara.
Who wants to see that? Who wants to see that? But the thing is, the pupils don't see you and you don't see them. So that's a double whammy. That's safeguarding, and that's safe for pupils that have high anxiety, who are maybe used to a teacher frowning at them and think, they don't have to read our facial cues. They can hear us, they can see on the screen. It's a lovely, colourful platform. All our lessons are so interactive and so colourful, and it's pleasurable. And all they're hearing from us is the well dones. That's great. Click here. Now, I don't know about you. Most teenagers that I know how to use an online platform like the back of their hand. It is like second nature to them. Sometimes the people will teach me something, I'm like, oh, that's amazing, thanks for sharing, but it is second nature to them. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Come on to Apricot and you've got a platform that a teenager will navigate around in a heartbeat. That probably, when I was training, took me ages and ages, and a teenager will navigate it so quickly, and it's safe and it's secure, and it gives them the confidence. And I think that's where the empowerment really, really happens for pupils with additional needs. And they actually feel, they're so used to talking online with their friends, it's quite an informal, relaxed thing. And I think that really, really takes the anxiety out of the idea of school.
Yeah, I think, Cara, you make a really good point there. And I think for those that maybe aren't familiar with the Apricot platform, and I think this is a really good segue into Amy just giving us a little bit of an overview of the platform. But what Apricot isn't is a Zoom call with a teacher on one side and a student on the other, and then you're just emailing back and forth worksheets and things like that. That's not what Apricot is. And I think once we just give a slight overview today, you'll start to understand, for everyone that's watching, and hopefully will watch this back as well, that Apricot really is a platform that has carefully been thought of for children that have the high anxiety, the learning difficulties, the mental health conditions that stop them from being within a mainstream school, and all of that has been catered for. Before we go on to that, Clem, I just wanted to come to you and just get your kind of views specifically with regards to that high anxiety. What sort of things do you do when you're teaching a child that traditionally has had that high anxiety, and what do you do to be able to combat that?
That's a good question. I mean, the first thing I do is not think about teaching. First thing I think about is establishing rapport. Pacing, matching the student, and finding out because often what you read in terms of the documentation reports is not the person that presents in the room, because we all present in different facets. So it's about finding out what kind of pacing and chunking of information the student is willing to engage in to start with. It's also sharing a little bit of oneself as well, and one's own philosophy and take on life, so they get to know that they're interacting with a human being. I like to sort of pick up Cara's point about, again, one of the benefits of not having a visual connection. Many young people with various sort of degrees of difficulty are really awful at reading facial cues. So it removes that whole area of misinterpretation, and it tends to focus really in terms of the sort of the auditory and in terms of keyboard communication, because not all our young people are happy talking to us. So we have to engage sort of different styles for sort of setting up the same kind of sort of I suppose area of rapport where the young person will begin. And then, of course, I think Amy or Jodie mentioned this earlier, is the range of choice. So I might start with, well, here's the range of topics that we have to cover. within this time period. Where would you like to start? Now, how empowering is that? They can pick, again, their areas of strength or areas of familiarity, and we can then use that to build a more solid platform to shore up. Because what we're doing is we're reframing their learning experience quite often, which previously has been failure, not going this, the high anxiety. So the other thing is to really to reset and manage their expectations. It's okay not to know this. It's okay to find this difficult. It's okay to find this a little bit scary. What would help you go through this bit? Can we slow the pace? Shall I just stop talking, let you read this? How would you like to get over it? Because it's, as well as the teaching role, there is the sort of, I suppose, the coaching with an eye to the future role. They're not going to be with us forever. They will have to find their way into other learning environments, and part of what we can do to help build up their skill sets and abilities to deal, or build up their resilience, for me, it is part of the thread what I think of a course of lessons and how my interaction changes. So with students that I've got over a longer period, the nature of my delivery will change over the course of time quite deliberately, to be a little bit, while I suppose, how would one describe it? Initially, one has to start with kid gloves and be quite sort of, extremely attuned and attentive. But as their confidence grows, it's a bit like parenting. As your child grows up, you have to become a different kind of parent, and it's the same thing in terms of this longer range, longitudinal relationship with learners. But the other thing that's key for me is we're talking about mental health, is to manage one's own state. In many ways, we've all been on aircraft where they do, when the mask drops down, you put your own on first before you can help anyone else. So I also spend a fair bit of time thinking about, how am I this morning? How's my mood? And sometimes, if it's appropriate and there are established a safe enough relationship, I'll say, I'm a bit tired this morning, but not really feeling up to this. I tell you what, you take the lead for this part, and you lead me, we'll work through it. So it's a cooperative, and they have control. They can slow the pace, up the pace, stop the pace. I mean, I've got one student who needs to take regular breaks, absolutely fine. Another lad who told me this afternoon, I really just can't do this anymore. But the fact that he feels safe enough to say that to me, and he gets that, do you know what, that's absolutely fine. What you've done so far, this is what we've covered so far. This is what you've learned so far in the 35 minutes. That's pretty good. Let's call it job and finish. I'll see you. So there's no stress, there's no anxiety. He could be, or they could be truthful. You can have an honest relationship, and we're dealing sort of, human being to human being. That's so the power really dynamic is very different. Power dynamic is really different. We're learning together. In spite of the fact I've been doing it probably for maybe 50 more years than they have, we're still doing it together, and it has to be that. And it helps to re-script their internal framework of learning, something before which has been to be avoided, to be worried about. I want them to feel eager coming in to chat about whatever, and then to chat about other stuff that might be relevant.
I think even before the teaching starts, for me, Apricot is very much about know, like, and trust. And it's very much about that the child needs to get to know you, needs to like you and to trust you. And then the teaching can begin, right? It's like, yes, you are teaching along the way. Actually,
behavior comes before learning, because, whether they know it or not, they are in control. They can refuse to go to school. They can refuse to switch on. So, there's a little bit of the, I'll at some point next conference, I'll tell you about my philosophies on the theatre of science, the theatre of maths.
Absolutely.
It has to be playful. And of course, if they are in a relaxed, playful, inquisitive state, that's the best state to be in for any therapeutic intervention to take hold as well. So it's important that they work in tandem with that.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you, Clem, for those insights. Really, really helpful. Amy, if it's okay, I'd like to hand over to you to maybe just share your screen again and just show everyone a little bit about the platform and what it looks like, just so people can start to get an understanding that it's not just, as I say, a Zoom call with a teacher on one side and a student on the other, because it's so much more than that. Once Amy has done that, again, just as a reminder, if anyone would like a more in-depth demonstration, then please do reach out to us. You can reach out to Jodie directly at jodie@apricotonlinelearning.com, and we'd be more than happy to set up a more detailed demonstration of the platform for you. But we thought today, if we can just give you a little bit of an overview, so that you can understand that, as I say, it's more than just a Zoom call. Over to you, Amy.
And this will be very short and sweet. Yeah, we'd be happy to do a proper demo. So this is just an example of one page. All this stuff on the left is just the teachers will see that, not the students. So I'm logged in as a teacher. I'm gonna minimize you guys. So you can see that a basic slideshow of content is there. We've got videos, we've got activities that you can do right inside the platform, or you could click and make this full screen, which I won't do. There's all kinds of different activities, again, that you can
Sorry,
do.
Amy, sorry to interrupt there. Caroline has to drop off. Caroline, thank you so much for coming today, and thank you so much for your questions. If there's anything that we can help with, then as I say, please feel free to drop us a note. Yeah, no, we thank you so much for attending today. So thank you. Have a lovely evening. Sorry, Amy.
Sure. No, that's no problem. So this is just an example of one classroom page. And when I say one, I mean, this is, biology, cell biology, prokaryotic cells. But we've just got, obviously the entire course is up here with lots of interactives and colorful, informative videos, as well as attached files to look at. This takes too long, but oh, well, I've lost the page anyway, so I won't do that. But if I show you our classrooms, which is where every student will come into the classroom. Sorry, I gotta get this out of my way. Will come into the classroom and via the platform, and they will start off with some learning challenges, what the lesson objectives are, SMSC focus, English and math focus, vocabulary. And so they know from the very beginning what their objectives are for the lesson. So again, you'll see that there's no webcams in here at all. That's to keep the concentration on the activity. So this is a simple drag and drop where they can put things in categories. Maybe it goes here. They can argue about it, discuss it. That's one type of activity. This is a pick a pair, which I'm sorry, I can't see my draw tools because the Zoom thing is everywhere. Okay. So if I were to take off the draw tools, you can see that they have to mix and match like a game of concentration, one picture to one quotation. It's not easy, but they just grab the box and move it and take a peek. And then they can grab another one and move that and try to make pairs. This is more of a typical lesson. I'm going to skip through this one really quickly because it's just about superheroes and characteristics, and then a homework exercise. This is a basic matching. So they can take their pens and they can draw lines. I don't even know if that's correct, but I just drew that line there. The kids can use different colors so we can know who's who. They can choose them for the week or for the month or for the year. This is, again, I'm just throwing things around, a closed paragraph. They can either type in here or they can drag and drop. They tend to like the drag and drop, but sometimes we make them spell. This is a sequencing activity, so they can grab these things and move them around and try to figure out what happened first, what happened second. I'm not sure whether they chose a leader first, but I'll put that first for now. And there can be discussion around the ordering of these things. Make sure everybody understands the sequence of a novel. This is a priority exercise where if you're stuck on a desert island, what's the first thing you do? Jodie will cry. That's the first thing she will do. We can embed games that they can play. This is a blockbuster game. We can also throw in slides that have a lot of different activities. Again, this goes to student choice. They can do a storyboard. They can create an exam question based on the lesson. They can create a mind map. They can do all kinds of things. So we put these extension slides in variously in lessons. Well, one other thing quickly I did want to, and we can pop to different layouts. So here's one where there's a video, and while the video is playing, the students can be, say, oh, I saw that. Oh yeah, I heard that in the song. It's a music video about the Black Death. So again, they can choose different colors. And once they've, whoever gets bingo first through the video is another cool activity. I won't do any more in the classroom right now. There are loads and loads of layouts that we can put in. I will just show you one other thing. Maybe I lied, two other things. This is one of our virtual exercise books, again, with a bit of an objective slide. This one has been done, and marked, so you can see that they had to read the scales. Here's one where they had to type in and label the parts of the plant cell, and on it goes until the end, where they can then go back and say, okay, where do I think I stand now in terms of my understanding of the subject. They start with that and then they end with that. I won't do this whole thing, but this is another nifty little thing where, especially these days, they can inject a bunch of sheep with a bacteria. Oh, I didn't put a bacteria on, did I? So they're all very healthy. Hang on, let me start this over. Let me give them a virus of some kind. There we go. Trisha explains this a lot better, but Trisha, we don't have time right now. So, oh, I've got some sick sheep. And oh my goodness, what's going to happen now? Oh, I've lost some, so they've died. So now, what do I do, Trisha? Is it bacteria free? Yeah, bacteria free. And then you can see that no more die. But now, is it if I give it to them again, no more die because they've built up an immunity? Trisha really needs to be doing this. Yeah.
There we go.
So they don't get sick because they've had the vaccine. They've had a treatment already, even though this isn't exactly the same because the treatment killed half the herd. Whoopsie. So I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, I think the point really is that it's not just maybe what people think an online lesson may be. There's actually a really robust platform. There's lots of additional applications that are used. And Linda, I wonder if this is a good opportunity maybe for you to give us some insight in terms of, when you first saw that platform, like what were you expecting versus what you saw, and how did people within your school in particular really take to that platform?
We were saying expectation. We started. What did we start on, Amy? It was Skype, wasn't it? I mean, literally 2 weeks before we were due to start, and we got the contract. So they had to set up a whole platform for us in a very short period of time. And so it's over the years, it's developed and grown. And to be frank with you, I really miss it. Yeah, I really do. What you've shown there is very comprehensive. But if you look at the sort of top end GCSE range, the quality of the teaching. I mean, I'm an English teacher, and I would sit in the lessons with Faye. The quality of what they're learning is just so good. And some of the tasks, I mean, they really stretch the pupils. They really did stretch them. But also within an environment, as everybody's been explaining, that is therapeutic and supportive. And you know, of the learning objectives at the beginning, the kids know what they're expected to do. They're reviewing them at the end of the lesson in the plenary. Everything is stepped and very carefully developed so that they're building on knowledge and understanding the whole time. And that's lesson after lesson after lesson. There is a consistency there across all of the subjects in the whole approach. So every time I go into a lesson with Apricot, I know what I'm getting, and I know what the kids are getting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the work that your kids did, some of it was astounding. You just wouldn't expect the quality to come out of some of these children, and
but they wouldn't have had the opportunity had they not had Apricot. Classic example, one of my pupils who was sitting at home for the best part of a year, we finally managed to get him in through working with Apricot. This pupil turned out to be a brilliant coder. Yes. He was absolutely, he was way above anything I had seen in years. And we would never, ever have found that out had we not been able to engage him. And he's now going on to do computers and coding, and hopefully he'll go to university when he gets to 18. But that was the opportunity for him. And it was the springboard for him, and it's changed his life.
Yeah, it's unlocking that potential in a way that never maybe would have been unlocked, you know, without such a platform or engagement, I guess.
But there isn't another platform like Apricot out there. I've not seen anything like it in terms of the quality and just in terms of the rigor as well. The way it's the work that Amy and Jodie do to keep everything not just safeguarding compliant, but just to get the best possible quality.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Thank you, Linda, for that insight as well. It's really important, I think, to be able to hear firsthand from someone like yourself who has really, you know, lived and breathed and as you say, grown with Apricot, and to be able to see where it is now and to be able to really understand firsthand the impact, the positive impact it can have on people. I don't think, you know, without having you here, it's not as possible to really sort of understand that. And so again, to anybody that's listening, if you have contacts within local authorities or schools or academies that you feel Apricot can help and can benefit, then, you know, we would really welcome an introduction and a conversation, and, you know, maybe an opportunity to be able to demonstrate the platform in more detail, because genuinely, you know, this will change lives. And for us, it's now about getting ourselves out there and known more to those who really need this help, but with that confidence, as we were saying earlier on, that it's not just an unknown, but it's actually someone that is, you know, fully accredited in all the right areas, with all the right safeguarding, qualified teachers. You know, that's the other thing as well, that, you know, all of the teachers are full-time QTS, and, you know, that's another really sort of unique point within the offering, that, you know,
and committed to these children.
100%.
I've never met more committed teachers than the ones that we're privileged to work with.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, so again, thank you to Linda for joining us today. Thank you, Clem, Tricia, Cara, for being here and helping to answer those questions as well. It's always lovely to be able to hear from the teachers as well and their perspectives. Of course, Amy and Jodie, as the directors of Apricot, it's a pleasure to hear from you guys as always. And thank you certainly to Katie, Michael, Robin, and Caroline, who attended in person. We will be sharing this on our social media pages as well if people want to watch back. So if you do know anybody that might benefit from this, please do point them towards our social media handles, and we will be uploading this video very soon. And again, just a reminder that, you know, we are here to be able to serve local authorities, schools, academies, the children, the recipients of those particular establishments, but we also are here to be able to serve those children that may decide to learn from home. You know, the homeschooler community is just as able to benefit from the offering and the services that Apricot provide. And so, you know, if you are interested, then we do run free taster sessions. Our taster sessions run on a Wednesday afternoon. If you are interested in coming along to a taster session, whether this is for your child, whether you work within an establishment that may benefit from this, you're more than welcome to come along to one of our free taster sessions. Please just reach out to Jodie at Apricot Learning Online Learning.
No, you get it right.
Apricot Learning Online.com, apologies. And she will be able to help you and get you signed up to one of our free taster sessions. They run on a weekly basis. So if there's one that you can't make, then you can always join another one thereafter. But otherwise, I think from a time perspective, we are pretty much coming to the end of our slot. So I thank everyone once again for attending today, and thank you to all of our guests and co-hosts for being here and sharing your stories.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Biraj.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.